Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This one is player rankings for Game Week 23, where myself and George from Ingenuity Fantasy make top 10 lists for 6 categories and discuss those. So the 6 categories are budget defenders, budget mids, premium mids, budget forwards, premium forwards. We're looking 5 game weeks ahead when we're making these lists, so let's get straight into it. Okay, starting with defenders, and my list is full of pretty popular names, the likes of Mukiele, Anderson, Richards. Mukiele, if you've watched any of my videos, you know how much I love this guy. I've had him most of the season, and he just gets points. You have Dorgu top of your list. Now, I like Dorgu. I think he's been playing brilliantly in this more advanced winger position, whether it's left wing, right wing, wherever it is. And don't get me wrong, after the weekend, I love what Carrick is cooking up at Man United, but I'm just not sure in his minutes. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and it's completely valid. I think we can both agree that, if he was nailed, he'd probably be at, if not near the top of your list. So yeah, I completely understand the minutes risk. All I have to say in that front is, he started the last 6 games in a row, but he didn't just start and get rotated out for someone. He was 90 minutes in every single game. And more importantly, he was 90 minutes with Ahmad back, which I think is and Ahmad started as well. So it's quite clear that, at least in the short term, considering his returns, he's going to be a priority. Now, part of why I felt extra optimistic about him not being rotated is the lack of cup football at Man United. They haven't got any Champions League games going on where he'll need a rest. They haven't got any FA Cup games. They haven't got any more League Cup games where he's going to need a rest. So in theory, rest shouldn't lead to any rotation for Dorgu. So the way I look at it, it is the risk, but given he's 4.3 million, I mean, it's a risk I'm willing to take because those fixtures, those United fixtures that are coming up, once you get past Arsenal, they've got Fulham, Spurs, who are dreadful, West Ham, who are dreadful, no offense, Everton, then Crystal Palace. So, that stretch of fixtures, if you're an attacking fullback, is sensational. And to be honest, that City result was a statement win. That wasn't just a fluky 2-0. That was a clean sheet. That was, limiting City to 0.39 XG over the course of the game. So, that was one of those wins that meant something. And, if there's clean sheets and attacking returns in the mix for Dorgu, then I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a battering. Man United looked so good in that game, like unbelievable. But for me, there's just too many players that could quite easily play instead of him. Like Cunha could just play on the left. Cunha didn't start the weekend. Sesko could start. I mean, and Mbeumo goes onto the left. I mean, that's less likely maybe, but there's just too many options. Mason Mount could become a player that plays as well. Like there's too many options for him to be benched for me, even though he has been unbelievable for sure. And then what else do we have here? So Dalot as well. Again, Dalot I had in my team up until last week because during AFCON I was like, okay, he's nailed and he's cheap. But with Mazraoui back, I'm not 100% sure on that either. There's just too many minutes concerns. And the same with Tosin as well. I mean, anybody that isn't Chalobah as a centre-back, I'm just not sure that you can guarantee they play. I mean, they're cheap. The likes of Achimpong, Fofana, Tosin, you just don't know which one's going to play, which is a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's why Tosin finds himself at 8 on my list. If we knew that he was their first choice centre back, again, he would be much higher up the list. So there is definitely that element of risk. But he did pick up an injury last game, but all accounts do seem like he is fit to play the next game. I think for me, the players with Tosin, that Chelsea defence with unbelievable fixtures. There's no way around it. I can't remember a team having a better stretch of fixtures than Chelsea have right now. So the fact he only costs 4 million, if there is a 4 million route into that Chelsea defense, even Fofana's like 4.3 or 4.4, I think. So, if we had a crystal ball and we knew which one of them was going to start those games and you couldn't afford a Chalobah, they would be a fantastic option and a way that you could save 1.2 million on top. So it's just guessing games, and that's why he finds himself at 8 for me.
Yeah, I think I'd be siding with Fofana just because he's a better footballer. I think Tosin is pretty rubbish. I mean, not that it matters from an FPL perspective if you're getting the minutes, but if Fofana could play all of these games, then I think he would. But we know that he can't. So yeah, if you can get, I mean, hopefully they'd get 90 minutes or 0 minutes. So maybe it is kind of a play if you've got a Mukiele or an Alderete on your bench anyway. But I don't hate it, I guess. And then on to the premium defenders now. And the top of our lists are pretty much just Arsenal and then Chelsea. It's very simple. Arsenal are... we don't need to discuss Arsenal. They're the best defence. Gabriel does what Gabriel does. So does Timber. Chelsea have a joke run of fixtures. So Chalobah, Cucurella, James, all fantastic options.
Yeah, I mean, the premium defender landscape at the moment is very uncomplicated. You know, it's Arsenal, it's Chelsea, and then, you know, you're thinking about other players who come back from injury. I saw quite a few people were concerned about Timber's minutes as well. You know, Timber being rotated with Ben White, and I think, you know, if the UCL game proved anything, Timber's early sub shows that he's going to be prioritized in the league. And also his versatility, the fact he can play right back or left back. Arteta kind of just wants him in the team for important games. And at the moment, but given they're leading the lead, every Premier League game is likely going to be prioritized for a Timber start. So if you're worried about his minutes, or if you're even contemplating moving off Timber because you're worried about his minutes, do not worry.
Yeah, I mean, the only real fixtures that can hamper it, I mean, FA Cup's not going to. The last Champions League game isn't going to, because they're where they need to be in that. So it's pretty much just that Chelsea fixture in the Carabao Cup that could hamper it from the league perspective, but you're not worried about him based on one other game. So I think he's fine. And then you've got Munoz in your list. Now we know how much you love Munoz, but as FPL managers in general, we love Munoz. He looks to be coming back soon.
Yes, so he is. There are murmurs that he will be able to make it back this week. Now, often when a player goes from definitely not making it back last week, they seldom do come back the immediate week after being definitely not. There's normally a one will they, won't they week. And then, you know, they get a couple minutes. Maybe they come on as a sub. So I don't know if he will start this week, but it is definitely time to start planning for him on your radar. Because, you know, if you're thinking about loading up at the back, which, you know, ideally you want to have double Arsenal, you want to have maybe one or two Chelsea players in there, Munoz is the perfect fourth defender. So the ideal defense, I'd say at the moment, Gabriel, Timber, Chalobah, and then when Munoz is back, Munoz as well. And if you've looked at all of those four players' fixtures as well, they are that is a set and forget defense for the pretty much near the end of the season. So that's what I'm striving towards, at least.
Yeah, I think Munoz is pretty much the only player that can touch this Arsenal Chelsea situation in the premium defenders, I think. But yeah, that rounds out the premium defenders and the defenders. We'll be back shortly with the midfielders. Before we get into the midfielders, I just want to talk about ingenuityfantasy.com, completely free website. Link is in the description to the video. All sorts of cool stuff on there. FPL quizzes, football quizzes to test your knowledge. There's articles for differentials, for wildcards, for free hits, for all sorts of things on there as well. And there's also the Transfer Wizard tool, really cool tool. You basically put in what amount of money you've got to spend, what position you need, and it will give you a list, a ranked list of players to consider. So make sure you're checking it out, ingenuityfantasy.com. The link is in the description, but let's get on to the midfielders now. Okay, on to midfielders and budget midfielders. We're starting with Enzo Fernandez, who is top of both of our lists. We mentioned how good Chelsea's fixtures are, of course, but he seems to just be getting in good positions. I mean, I brought him in for Game Week 22, and admittedly, his assist was pretty lucky. But nevertheless, he is actually getting in good positions, and he's kind of everything you want from a number 8 as such.
Yeah, I mean, you almost don't even need to go into too much detail about Enzo. Everyone knows, you know, the fixtures are absolutely there. He's averaging, and a lot of these games are with Palmer, he's averaging a 0.6 expected goal involvements per 90 this season. So, you know, even though, you know, there may be games where he's down, or even though he may get lucky assists, the underlyings are so strong that it's almost not lucky, because there are other games he was unlucky to not get one. So, I mean, you know exactly what you're getting with Enzo. Chelsea's fixtures are fantastic, and he's 6.5 million. There's just no reason not to have him in. Yeah, completely agree. And then there's a few players that have entered our list because they've come back from AFCON, the likes of Iliman and Jai, the likes of Ahmad, the likes of Ismail Assar.
they're all pretty good options, I'd say. For me, Ahmad's, I've just got him there because I'm not 100% sure on the minutes. I mean, they've got plenty of options in that position, but he's still a good option. And then Njai and Sarr are both just fantastic options right now.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, Njai in particular, we know how exciting and how explosive can be. And he's also being plugged back into an Everton side, which have just beaten Villa in a real statement win and seem to be gathering some momentum. So, whenever a player is plugged into a team that's already playing well, it normally just ends up, being quite good for return. So, yeah, I really like Njai.
Yeah, and not that it makes too much difference, but we've seen that Grealish looks like he's going to be out for a little bit. So maybe we see Njai on the left. Again, I'm not sure how much that changes for him. I think his minutes were secure anyway, and he's pretty productive on the right. So I don't think he ups it loads on the left, but good nevertheless. And then the only other player to touch on really here is Shirky. Now, he hasn't moved in my list, but in yours, he's come down a bit. I think I actually sold Shirky last week for Enzo Fernandez. You just can't trust his minutes now at all. With Doku, Semenyo, Foden, you just cannot trust that he's going to start games.
Yeah, there is absolutely the minutes risk. And I think, if City's fixtures weren't as good as they are, especially for the more extended future, Wolves, Spurs, Fulham, and then, after Liverpool, in amongst Liverpool, Newcastle, they've got then Leeds, Forest, West Ham. The fixtures are there, and and his ceiling is fantastic. As you mentioned before, though, there is definitely the risk of minutes, and that is why he's where he is. He has come down a bit, but do I think he could outscore everyone below him in this list over that time period? Yeah, I do. So it's not like third is a crazy strong spot here, but it's just where he finds himself.
Yeah, other than that, we've got pretty standard players. Harry Wilson's in here, Anderson, Szoboszlai, Barnes.
Yeah, I think it is. I do just want to quickly touch on Aaronson as well. I mean, obviously, a lot of this was from watching the Newcastle game, where he bagged a pair against us. If you're looking for basically an attacker forward, who finds himself in dangerous positions all the time, 5.4 million is fantastic value for Aaronson. I think he's got something like, 5 returns in his last 6. But more importantly, if Leeds continue playing this attacking brand of football that they are, he's going to keep getting a ton of chances, and at that value, I think he could be a bit of a sleeper. I really do, but it's one to keep eyes on.
He's always in and around anything good for Leeds, but if you own him, I wouldn't advise watching Leeds game because he is incredibly wasteful. He gets so many chances.
Yeah,
he gets enough that he gets a return, but he misses so many as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He does get them. It's crazy. Yeah. Like, he gets so many chances.
Okay, that rounds out budget midfielders. On to premiums now. And the first thing I want to touch on is your love for Florian Wirtz here, up at number 7. If you watched these videos before, then Wirtz drops out of George's list pretty swiftly at the start of the season. Every week we had to talk about him, even though he wasn't in your list. You still wanted to talk about the guy. So yeah, talk to me about him at 7th.
Yeah, not really much to say. Like I said, I mean, I think I did say right at the start of the season, because of what I was watching with my eyes, I just didn't, have that much belief. He didn't seem up to the speed of the Prem on a physicality level. He's getting bodied off the ball. He seemed like he didn't have enough time on the ball. But I think, and what I said was, for him to enter my list, I would have to see it first. I'm not going to try and, I would never preemptively bring Wirtz in because of how much he looked like he was struggling. But I can't deny it. His recent performances, not just on the return front, but also on the eyes. The guy's been playing well. He seems like the dust has settled a bit. He seems to have found his place within the team. So yeah, I think he is a great option. Liverpool's fixtures are a little bit tricky, at least over the next 4. Playing the Newcastle, City, and Sunderland defenses. They're all quite tricky defenses. So he's not an immediate priority. Certainly wouldn't be a buy for me. But when their fixtures open up in game week 27, I think he could be a fantastic option.
Yeah, he's just getting into the positions that you wanted him to get into before, like picking up the ball in the box. And anytime he gets the ball in the box, he just can shift and create some space. He's brilliant there. He just wasn't getting the ball in the right positions before. But you can see he's an unbelievable footballer.
Yeah.
And when the fixtures are good.
Never know though. With Salah back, maybe his creativity stifled it, because I mean, a lot of why he was suffering before was when Salah was in the team and cutting into that space that Wirtz like to operate in. So, maybe if Salah ends up starting again, I don't know. There's some question marks at least over the next 3 about how Liverpool adjust with Salah back.
Yeah, there is, and let's talk about Salah, because Salah comes into your list at 10th. Salah comes into my list at 5, which is, thinking about it now, quite high. Quite high, especially over the likes of Mbeumo.
Maybe a bit, yeah. Over Mbeumo is wild.
Yeah, no, it might be for sure. But my thinking is that this is basically banking on him coming in and starting games, which is not kind of guaranteed. Far from it. I mean, before the African Cup of Nations, he certainly wasn't nailed.
Yeah,
certainly not. So, if he comes back in, I do think he can start to do well again. It's just whether he does actually start in that position. I mean, they don't have loads of options in that position right now, especially now that Connor Bradley's out and Frimpong will have to play at right back, because he was looking quite good at right wing, really. But I'm not sure who else plays there that over Salah, really.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. They seem to like moving Wirtz around a lot, or Gakpo around a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they just chuck Szoboszlai out there every now and then. They seem to move him everywhere. So, I mean, we don't really know. But the problem, I think, for me, we know Salah's potential. We know especially how incredible he was last year. But he was getting benched earlier this season, and he is a minutes risk. And 14 million is a lot to pay for a minutes risk.
Another player who is back from the African Cup of Nations is Bryan Mbeumo. He looked brilliant, as most of the Man United forward line did against Man City at the weekend. I maybe should have him higher than I do, because I think that him and Bruno Fernandes are the two attackers that have, or that are the most nailed as such. Bruno Fernandes is just not going to miss minutes. Obviously, we know that, and we'll talk about him. But Mbeumo, the fact that he can play anywhere, he can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play up front, as we saw. I just don't think there's a world where he doesn't play in these games. And Man United, as you mentioned earlier, have no other fixtures to worry about, solely the league.
Yeah.
So I just can't see a world where he doesn't play minutes. And at 8.1 million, if Man United keep playing like they did against City, big if. But if they do, then he's great value.
Yeah, completely agree. And also a really, really, all those people who were upset about the Amorim firing, this was a pretty damning indictment of Amorim's rigidity and refusal to switch his system. They moved to a 4 at the back and they absolutely walloped Man City. So the talent in this in the Man United attack is absolutely clear. We know how good Mbeumo is. Mbeumo is a fantastic footballer. So just putting him in those, if you put him in those positions, he will get you goals. There is no doubt around that. So 8.1 million is actually looking like a bit of a bargain, especially considering Man United's fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, he missed chances against City as well. He had plenty of other chances that he could have scored. He was brilliant.
He really,
but Bruno Fernandes, I don't have enough good things to say about Bruno Fernandes. Not just as an FPL option, but as a footballer. He just, back in the number 10, it shows how good of a footballer he was, that he was playing that well in a number 6 or 8 role. Whereas he's so good. And 9.2 million is just a bargain. I do think we've said it before about how many routes to points he's got. We all know about that. I do think, obviously, they play Arsenal away. You can wait a week if you've maybe got a Foden and you think that Foden's going to play. I don't think you have to wait a week, by all means. I think Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes can get points against anyone. I don't like the idea of selling Foden, who plays Wolves at home, for Bruno Fernandes with Arsenal away. I would wait. I will wait in my team. But I don't hate the idea if you're doing it, because Bruno Fernandes is fixture-proof, position-proof. He's everything.
Yeah, I didn't wait, personally. And it's because I had Foden and Saka. And so Foden and Saka, there's never been a more clear move with 2 free transfers to move from Foden and Saka to Rice and Fernandes, because I had to do the downgrade from Saka to Rice to be able to afford Foden to Fernandes. So it just made a ton of sense. But as you say, I don't even think there is every chance that Foden gets rested on the weekend. He started in the midweek game in the Champions League. City have a ton of options, but also you have players like Semenyo who can't play in the Champions League. So, because they're not registered. So will only be able to play those league games. So I think what you will see is, Foden, and also, to be honest, Foden, his performances haven't been great either. He is. I know Pep's been starting him every game, but he's got some broken bones in his hand. If there was any game to rest Foden for, it probably would be this one coming up, because it's against supposedly an easy opposition in Wolves.
I disagree. If there was ever going to be a game to bench him for, it would have been this midweek game yesterday. That is exactly the game you bench him for. I don't think that Pep will bench him. I think he plays in pretty much every single game, or every single game that matters a little bit, meaning every league game. I think he just plays all the games, meaning that, and his performances haven't been at it. Of course they haven't. But for me, I can't be selling a Foden when I think he starts against Wolves at home for someone, admittedly it's Bruno Fernandes, but someone who plays Arsenal away. I can personally just wait a week. But that doesn't mean I don't think Bruno Fernandes will do well this week, because, like I say, he's fixture proof. He really is. But that rounds out the premium midfielders and the midfielders. We will be back for the forwards. Okay, on to the forwards now, and we're starting with budget forwards. So Kruppi Jr. hasn't moved from either of our lists. Still a fantastic option, especially given that Tavernier is out now. That's Justin Kluivert out, Tavernier out, Semenyo gone. Minutes just seem there, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, so can we now agree that the minutes are there for Kruppi? I think, FPL managers in general need to agree that the minutes are there. Now, given the minutes are there, where he lines up, we've shown he can be prolific from wherever he lines up. Whether he plays at the 10, he's as far forward as Evan Nilsson. He can play out wide and cut in. He's going to be a part of that front four, and he has an absolute eye for goal. There's no doubt around that. Now, he actually has the lowest minutes per goal in the league out of every single striker, including Erling Haaland at 92, which obviously is almost definitely unsustainable. But if he even produces at about 60% of that for 4.6 million, you are looking at a fantastic enabler. I think more importantly are Bournemouth's fixtures. Now, given that Tavernier is going to miss some of those, I think, and knowing he gets to start, they've got Wolves in game week 24. Then they got Villa in 25, but then they have Everton, West Ham, Sunderland at home, Brentford, Burnley. These are just absolutely fantastic fixtures. And as we know, Bournemouth have been involved in some absolute barn burners recently. They don't care about defending, but they will try and outscore you. So, they're conceding, I think, about 2.6 goals a game in their last 10, which, if you're a Bournemouth attacker, is actually really good news, because it means your team's not going to be playing very compact. So, I think at his, he can make an absolute mockery of his price tag, Kruppi. So, if you were wildcarding and you needed a spare striker, just stash him there as a wrap. It could save you the transfer of moving to him if he starts to find some form.
Yeah, 100%. I think he should be nailed as a third forward. I'm actually probably next week going to have him as my second forward.
Yeah,
I think I can have 4 or 5 defenders that are good enough that I can rotate Kruppi in and out if I need to. I just think he is fine as the second forward. Like you say, he should get minutes. The fixtures are there. There's nothing. The game management will be there.
You're saving so much cash on him as well. 4.6 million is a joke for someone who's starting.
Yeah, there's nothing not to like about him, really. I also think that Liam Delap is a good pick now. Now, I've got him up at third, potentially a bit high, but potentially a bit high given that it's above Kruppi. However, the fixtures are certainly there. We know that. We've talked about that. I also think he's just going to be the guy under Rosenior. I think he is going to be the forward. He's the only actual out-and-out striker that Chelsea have. He's looked and played quite well in recent games as well when he's got minutes. I think he is an absolute handful. He can just make stuff out of nothing. And I just don't see, this might be just me kind of wishing this as such for Chelsea, but I just don't see that João Pedro will work long-term as a number 9. I think he's good enough that it will work sometimes there because he's an unbelievable footballer. But for me, you need a proper number 9 there. And I think Rosenior will play Delap there more often than not.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I do like Delap as a footballer 100%. For me, I just think João Pedro gets way too minutes for Delap to even be in consideration. I think Chelsea's have quite a packed fixture schedule as well. Players will be rotated. And João Pedro scored last game, so I mean it's just there's just a few too many things going against Delap's minutes at the moment for him to enter my consideration.
Yeah, I think the fixture congestion is something to worry about, to be fair, because there will be times when he plays not in the Premier League. So I do get that. But I think if Rossinha plays him up there, I think it will work better than if João Pedro plays up there.
Yeah, potentially, but the Rossinha probably hasn't got your footballing IQ.
Well, there'll be a reason that I'm not a football manager, so maybe that won't happen. One other player to talk about, because he finds himself still in your list, despite the fact he does have a red arrow next to him, is Danny Welbeck. So before I let you talk on it, he last week you had him in your list after he proceeded to not start the last two games. He did get a start in the most recent game. He got subbed off for the guy that scored the equaliser. And what an equaliser it was.
Yeah. I mean, the fixtures are there for Brighton. Whether he'll be taking part in them is another question. But like as an attacker, you're looking at Fulham, Everton at home, Palace at home, Villa, Brentford, and Nottingham Forest at home. Those, they are great attacking fixtures in theory. But I mean, it's 8th on the budget forwards list. It's not like anyone below him is a better prospect than Igor Jesus.
Igor Jesus is much better. He's a 2 in my list. He's much better.
I don't know. I'm not.
He gets minutes.
He gets minutes. Yeah, he gets minutes. But Welbeck gets goals. So
clearly, yeah. So moving on to premium forwards now, and you want to talk about Ekitike? He's shot from 10th to 2nd in your list.
Right. Let me explain myself before Brad takes that swipe. Ekitike was only 10th because he was supposedly injured when we recorded the last video.
No.
Liverpool's head of recovery dropped him from their fantasy team, which I'm not gonna. I put my tinfoil hat on and completely bought into that. So Ekitike was not in 10th by any metric of quality or potential returns or anything to do with that. It was just injury speculation. Hence why he now finds himself straight back up 2nd. But more importantly, what I want to talk about, I've interacted with quite a few people on Twitter and Reddit recently. There seems to be this big movement to sell Ekitike. Now, one thing that's been quoted to me is, but he's blanked the last 2 games. Did anyone watch the Burnley game? He could have had multiple returns in that Burnley game and was, any Ekitike owner, the fact that he didn't return and Wirtz did, you can count yourself unlucky, But I don't like transferring players out after a blank or after 2 blanks. That's how you chase points, and that's how you lose at FPL. You transfer out players when their situation changes, i.e. they come into bad fixtures, they've got an injury, they start getting rotated or rested, or someone start their position is at risk. That's what you transfer players out for. You don't transfer out players if they blank but they record a 1.2 expected goal involvements for that same game that they blanked. That one, if I would much rather own an asset who blanked the first 2 games and was averaging 1.2 expected goal involvements per game than someone who scored in the first game but averaged 0.1. Like that this is basic stuff. So I don't understand the Ekitike transfer, considering how many holes a lot of people's teams have on them at the moment. Saka's and Rice's. At minimum, he is not worth the transfer out. At the very minimum. So I don't get it. And personally, it's slightly frustrating that I'm even having to deal with it.
Yeah, he's definitely not like someone you need to be planning to get rid of, I don't think. I mean, if you've got plans to restructure or something, then fine. Even if you want to get a Palmer or something like that, then maybe. But he's definitely not someone you need to be looking to sell. His differential points in the next few weeks will be fantastic. So
yes, keep selling. Yeah, he's an absolute sell. Please get him out your teams. Completely unsustainable. He's only, he's playing really good defenses like Bournemouth and City and Forest and West Ham and Wolves. So yeah, massive sell. Please get him out your teams.
Like Bournemouth. Yeah, speaking of Bournemouth. Speaking of Bournemouth, Evan Nilsson has gone up to 7th in my list. Now, obviously, that's not much of a gain, but I do think his situation has changed a tiny bit now that Tavernier's out. We saw literally at the weekend or Monday night that Tavernier was taking penalties. All of their penalty takers are gone now. Kluivert is injured. Semenyo's gone. Tavernier is now injured. Evan Nilsson will be taking penalties. So,
or at this rate, Evan Nilsson will get injured.
Yeah, that may be more likely. And then Krupi's up top, so we all buy him.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Krupi is an Evan Nilsson injury away from being the best value FPL asset of all time. Basically, what we know is, I mean, earlier on in the season when Tavernier and Kluivert weren't on the pitch, it was Evan Nilsson that took the penalty. So we can be pretty sure that he will, adopt those penalty strategies. I don't despise Evan Nilsson as an FPL asset. He just doesn't make sense compared to the other options. But I mean, Bournemouth's situation is definitely one to keep tabs on because they are a very, very attacking team. There is a big pie at Bournemouth, so it is definitely one. And with big pies come lots of penalty opportunities, and Bournemouth's situation is definitely one to monitor for sure.
And the players to actually take a slice of that pie just seem to be dwindling week on week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd go and buy him, but I do think he's a good enough option right now.
Yeah,
but yeah. That rounds out the premium forwards, that rounds out the forwards, and that rounds out the video. So make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're checking out ingenuityfantasy.com. As I mentioned earlier, all sorts of good stuff on there. But that is all for this one. We will see you next week.